Hey, what's going on? This is the Body Punch Podcast, and my name is Naz. Let's talk about Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. What an interesting fight that could happen sometime soon. This fight has been in the works for a while now. Chandler has been calling out Conor McGregor for some time after a couple of his previous fights that he just had, the fight that he just had with Dustin Poirier. He called out Conor McGregor again, and Conor McGregor hasn't really called out Michael Chandler, but if you look at the potential fights that Conor McGregor could have, Michael Chandler is at the top of that bill. He's one of the most electrifying, most fun fighters that is around his weight class. Even if Conor McGregor has packed on the pounds that he claims on Instagram and social media, Michael Chandler still could be the perfect fight for Conor McGregor's comeback. This is such an interesting fight, and I think that the reason why I wanted to talk about it now is, first of all, like I said, after the Dustin Poirier fight, Michael Chandler mentioned Conor McGregor's name again. He mentioned his name after the Tony Ferguson fight. And now Conor McGregor putting out a tweet saying that he's cleared for testing in February and will complete 2 tests per USADA, and we're booking a fight. Now, the asterisk here is that he needs 6 months in the program. But after the February date, and then after the 6 months in the program, when he is cleared, that might be the perfect timeline for him to fight Michael Chandler. If Michael Chandler is willing to wait that amount of time, we know how much of an active fighter he is, but the amount of damage that he's taken in the past couple fights, we see it on social media with him putting ice on his face and then talking to his children. But with all of the damage that he's taken, I think that he is willing to take that time, especially for a Conor McGregor fight that he has been looking for such a long time. And I think, again, Conor McGregor is looking for that perfect opponent to come back to. Michael Chandler is someone that's at the top of the division still, even though he's lost a couple now. He's super exciting to watch, calls himself the most electrifying and most exciting fighter in the UFC right now. And if Conor McGregor can beat Michael Chandler, then he is right up there, right back in line to start racking up those wins and possibly making a comeback. He is a bit older now. He had that devastating leg break. And that's why, again, I think that Michael Chandler is the perfect fight for him to come back to. And even when you compare these two fighters together, 22-6 for Conor McGregor and then 23-8 for Michael Chandler, even the records are somewhat similar. And again, the height is very similar. Conor McGregor standing at 5'9", Michael Chandler standing at 5'8". The reach is in Conor McGregor's favor with 74 inches as opposed to Michael Chandler's 71 inches. But if we look at the fighting style that Michael Chandler has, it is built for someone like Conor McGregor. And again, I'm just going to keep on bringing up the point that if Conor McGregor is looking to come back and looking to fight in around the 155, 170 pound division, then I think Michael Chandler is a perfect one to come back to. Even when you look at the records, they're somewhat similar, but the fighting style, Michael Chandler is known to be a wrestler. He has a wrestling background, but he doesn't use it that much. He used it a lot more in this Dustin Poirier fight, but he is an action fighter. He has the kill or be killed personality to him, where he'll put himself into the fire. He'll put himself into the depths against some of the toughest fighters in the division. Some of the fights that he's had with Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and even Charles Oliveira, put himself into the fire, and it was an all or nothing mentality. And I think that will make him an exciting fighter. And I think that will make it an exciting fight. And that will also give him the recognition. It's not just about getting the Conor McGregor's fight. Like Donald Cerrone got the Conor McGregor fight, but did he make much of it? He lost in the first round right away with shoulder strikes. You also have to take into account how the opponent takes advantage of the moment. Even if you have a fighter who loses, Michael Chandler will be that one that will keep coming forward, who will attack Conor McGregor and then really make a great account for himself, win, lose, draw, whatever it is. Michael Chandler is the one. The thing about Michael Chandler is not many big time audiences know who he is. But once you watch one of his fights, once you see the way his personality is and how positive he is and the attitude that he has, fans just love this guy. Fans just gravitate towards him. But let's take a look at Conor McGregor's past opponents and why he needs a fight like this and why I think this is going to be something special if it does happen. I'm really banking on the fact that Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor fight happens. Dustin Poirier was the last person that Conor McGregor fought. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, snapped his leg, and Dustin Poirier won that one by doctor stoppage. But the one right before that, TKO win by Dustin Poirier, when he had him against the fence and hit him with those couple shots and took him down. He had the win against Donald Cerrone, TKO win. Like I said, shoulder strikes, flying knees, the whole shebang, took him out in the first round. Then he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov, submission loss. That was with all of the hullabaloo and stuff that happened after the fight. But if you look at each one of these fights, there's such a big time. But before these 4 fights, Conor McGregor was one of the most active fighters, taking on Eddie Alvarez, Jose Aldo, everybody. And he was so active. And then look at the breaks that he took between these fights. It was quite crazy. The 2 Dustin Poirier fights were relatively quick. And in between most of these fights and before the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight, Conor McGregor mentioned how he wanted to be super active. And unfortunately, due to the leg break, due to all the mishaps and stuff that happened after some of these fights, he's not able to consistently keep fighting. He's not able to take 1 year where he gets 2-3 fights. He takes maybe like a year or 2 off. I remember how big of a deal it was when Conor McGregor came back to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. It felt like such a big gap between Conor McGregor's last fights that it was almost like the old champion is coming back to regain his belt. But let's take a look at Michael Chandler's record. Lost to Dustin Poirier, so they have that similarity. It was a submission loss. It was the most recent fight, but then got that spectacular TKO on Tony Ferguson, where he kicked him on the head and got that crazy knockout. What a spectacular win for Michael Chandler in that one. And then lost to Justin Gaethje. That's when Justin Gaethje started really putting on the combinations on his opponents and was pinpoint accurate against Michael Chandler. Then he had the loss, TKO loss to Charles Oliveira, where it was a title fight and he was really putting it on Charles Oliveira. And again, some people might say both of these fighters might be over the hill and all this kind of stuff, but we're talking about Charles Oliveira, the former champion in the lightweight division, and someone who, aside from Islam Makhachev, is one of the scariest fighters to go up against in that division. Pinpoint accurate, is able to submit you, to able to, put it on you. And Michael Chandler was, unfortunately, in the later rounds and all that kind of stuff, that's when that's when Oliveira really put it on him. But Michael Chandler was in that first round, when he dumped Oliveira on his head, when he was attacking him ruthlessly. And it was really spectacular to watch. I mean, he has that mentality that we've talked about a couple times now in this podcast. But if you look at the list of Charles Oliveira's past opponents, I mean, Dustin Poirier was talking about the triangle of, death, or whatever you want to call it, but which is like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and Michael Chandler, and a couple others. Those fighters are the ones that you're not going to walk out the same. You're not going to walk out the same as the way that you walked in. And Michael Chandler has faced all of those thus far in his short UFC career thus far. Another fight that I wanted to talk about, Dan Hooker fight. I mean, what a crazy, the amount of pressure that Michael Chandler was under, and then the way that he was able to take out Dan Hooker the way that he did was super special. Now, this is some of the intricacies in both of these fighters. Conor McGregor, let's just talk about his striking accuracy. And in this, currently he's sitting at 50% striking accuracy. He, regards himself as one of the best strikers in the UFC. Takedown accuracy is 56%. Obviously, we got to know that Conor McGregor doesn't go for many takedowns, so take that as you will. The shots that he might take, he's at 56%. Takedown defense, 67%. That's an accumulation of his whole career. Like a lot of people take the Habib fight and a lot of those other fights and make that the percentage for his whole career. But when you put everything together, his takedown defense is still 67%, which is pretty good. Maybe a lot of people at the beginning of his career weren't taking him down because they were getting hit by a barrage of shots by Conor McGregor. But then we look at the strikes landed per minute, which is 5.32. It's high, but we know that he has a devastating power that he relies on a lot. That's one of his main weapons that he uses all the time, and everything that Conor McGregor throws is all to set up that left hand. So I think the strikes landed per minute get affected by that when he relies so much on that one shot. Now, let's take a look at Michael Chandler's percentages. Striking accuracy is at 46%. Takedown accuracy, 34%, 38%, sorry. Takedown defense at 71%. And then strikes landed per minute is 4.89. Now, Michael Chandler is one of those fighters that will, it's like a bat coming out of hell. Like, he'll just get after you right at the beginning, especially in this UFC career that he's had. Takedown defense is one thing that I wanted to talk about, which I don't think it's going to be a big one in this fight. Obviously, it's Conor McGregor, but it just shows that if he's at 71% in his career, he still has that wrestling background that he could utilize in this fight. Takedown accuracy is at 38%, but the takedown defense is at 71%. Now, I think some of the shots that Michael Chandler takes in some of his fights, meaning some of the takedowns that he tries going for, they're out of desperation at some points. It's not his main bread and butter that he uses in the octagon, but it is something that he'll go back to in his fights. Meaning that's his, that's the way that he was raised to fight, I guess, is one way to say it. And he'll go back to it in a point of desperation at some points. So that's why that percentage could be a bit lower. Obviously, all of these things are not backed behind data. It's just some of the stuff that I've noticed. So I think that this fight is going to be a crazy one if it happens. I think it's a perfect fight for both of these guys, especially with Conor McGregor coming back uh, into the pool and going back into USADA testing. I think him and Michael Chandler could turn out to be one of the craziest fights of all time. It could be something that goes 2 million pay-per-view buys. It seems like both parties are down. We need to hear Conor McGregor say it right away. We need to hear him say it outright. But Conor is not the type of person. He likes multiple options. He's always talked about it in a jokey way, but you got to believe him at this point. He likes options, so you won't outright say something. I remember the Donald Cerrone fight. It was just came out like randomly that he's fighting Donald Cerrone. So don't expect him to like call him out all the time. Things can change. Michael Chandler can change his, he could fight someone else and it could harm the ability for these two to fight. We have to see. There's many different factors, but I think in the back of both of these fighters' minds, they want to fight each other because they could see it as that stepping stone to maybe making a late comeback for that belt or making a late run. Conor McGregor is a little bit younger than Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler is in his advanced years as a lightweight fighter. So I think that he's looking for big fights now. He already made the run for the belt and he's going to try again and again and again. We know his personality, but a fight with Conor McGregor can boost your can boost your reputation by tenfolds, like by 100-folds. It's crazy. Again, I think this is going to be a massive fight no matter where it happens and what a fight it could potentially be. I really appreciate you listening. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification and all that good stuff. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Is this fight possible? And who do you think will win? And what are the key factors for each one of these fighters? Do you think that this is a perfect fight for either one of these guys? Let me know. Listen to the podcast on the different podcast networks. I really appreciate it. And thank you again. This has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. Bye.